Yes, there's one thing I want to talk about.
All right.
It is 49ers related, but we were talking about this before. There's been some interesting statements made about Kyle Shanahan by not only the 49ers fan base, but also the NFL. There was like a Seahawks TikTok, or I don't know what it was. I think it was a video, but I saw it on TikTok. Basically, they said that Mike Vrabel is better than Kyle Shanahan, which I have found extremely interesting. But from a non-49er fan, what do you think about not only this fire Kyle stuff, but that Kyle's not a top 10 coach anymore? Because it felt like it wasn't long ago when he was regarded typically as a top 5 coach in the league. Now, last season obviously wasn't a great year. I'm one to not blame coaches when they are starting Nick Mullins and CJ Beathard. Some other people, they have different choices. They do really like heavily grade those performances, which is always interesting to me. But I'm always big on trying to grade coaches on expectations with the current roster that they have. So when you account for injuries, when you look at stuff like that. But I don't know. What do you think about this fire Kyle stuff for the 49ers, and also like that he's fallen out of the top 10 coach rankings in the NFL?
Yeah, for me, I mean, I'm a big Kyle Shanahan fan. One of the biggest things that I think that a lot of people look at is I don't think people watch the 49ers. Like, I legitimately think that's one of the issues with Kyle Shanahan. And the whole thing about Kyle Shanahan is if you watch the 49ers, you will watch them and just be like, how is Deebo Samuel standing on the sideline with nobody within 30 yards of him? How is Kyle Juszczyk just running wide open down the middle of the field? How are these guys so open? Right? And that's Kyle Shanahan. And because people don't watch that, the 49ers, in my opinion, like the people that I talk to, like they're watching the Rams because the Niners, they like, even though they're fun to watch, I enjoy watching the Niners, they can be very explosive. They're kind of boring in their explosiveness. Like I don't think a lot of people love to watch Ayuk, even though he's very explosive. He's a ton of fun to watch. People don't love to watch Kittle, even though he has a ton of highlight plays. They don't love to watch Deebo, except to watch his highlights and things like that. The running backs aren't a big pull. Jimmy Garoppolo is incredibly boring. So, and the defense, nobody really tries to watch defense anymore. So, they don't get to recognize Fred Warner and Nick Bosa and how great these guys are. And so when you don't watch them, all you do is you look at the final scores and you look at the stats and you look at, all these things that people are saying and you're like, wow, Brandon Ayuk isn't looking too good, especially all the fantasy football players and things like that. And it's like, the dude's open. Kyle's getting him open. Jimmy can't make the throw. And you look at, I believe I saw the same video that Matt saw. And not only were they talking about Mike Vrabel, and I don't want to disrespect Mike Vrabel. I think he's a really solid coach in the NFL. He's definitely a guy that people want to play for. I don't think I think he's probably borderline top 10 guy. But I also see them talking about how Sean McVay and Matt LaFleur, they think are better. And the biggest thing they talk about is record. And the biggest thing that I have to say about that is look at the rosters that these guys got when they became coaches. Aaron Rodgers for Matt LaFleur with Devontae Adams, Aaron Jones, Jair Alexander. Like, I believe they had Zadarius Smith at that point, Kenny Clark, a lot of really good football players. And Matt LaFleur's got a good system. What system is that? Kyle Shanahan's system. So it's basically like you're taking the Walmart version of Kyle Shanahan and giving him Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams and all these great players, and they're going to be able to succeed. Sean McVay comes in and he has Aaron Donald, and he's taken over for a horrendous head coach. Like, horrendous head coach. Like, one of the worst coaches. Like, I can't remember what it was, but he's like literally like the only coach to have like a losing record and coach a certain amount of games.
Who is this?
The old Rams coach.
Jeff Fisher?
Yeah, Jeff Fisher. He had the record for like, well, I don't remember how many, maybe it was 1,000 games. He was like the only coach to ever coach 1,000 games or, 500 games and have a losing record. And like, he takes over for that. Who does he have? Aaron Donald and prime Todd Gurley. And eventually, obviously, gets Jalen Ramsey, and he gets all these great players. And he's running the Shanahan system with a former number 1 overall pick that was picked because he's accurate. And Jared Goff is an accurate quarterback. The issue is he can't really move and all that stuff. He's kind of a statue and things like that. But you give him a clean pocket. You give him time to throw. Jared Goff can can play well sometimes. And he was able to have success with that. Kyle Shanahan was given a team, and he ends up getting Jimmy Garoppolo, but Garoppolo gets hurt, and it's like CJ Beathard, and it's Nick Mullins, and it's George Kittle's out half the time, and they don't have anybody, and they're given these random running backs. And, he's given Matt Breida, turning him into a monster. And all of a sudden, this Raheem Mostert guy comes in, the teams are getting rid of. But Kyle Shanahan's so good that his system's able to work with these suboptimal players. And he still took a team to the Super Bowl. LaFleur has Rodgers and all these guys still yet to go to the Super Bowl. Sean McVay, he went to a Super Bowl. Yes, very good. With Kyle Shanahan's system and one of the best seasons that running backs will ever have from Todd Gurley, MVP caliber season, all that stuff. So, like, Kyle Shanahan, yeah, unfortunately, the 49ers aren't as good as a lot of people expected this year, but they've also been injured.
Yeah, not as much this year, but I also say the year's not over.
That's very true.
That's why I was never the type of person to be like, sell your Shanahan stock. Like, I was like, no, don't do it.
The only thing I can say is if somebody's on the fire Kyle Shanahan train, the only reason I could ever think of that is because they think like he's refusing to let Trey Lance start. I think that's the only way is if like, but it depends on how he's doing it.
But there's, okay. And I was seeing this too, is like, you can't develop if you're not playing. Yeah. That's not true. That is not true. Like, don't get me wrong. I think that Lance should be starting. I am a person that believes that. But the idea that you can't develop if you're not starting, it doesn't really make sense. Like, from a week-to-week basis, going over film, analyzing opposing defenses, his film work with Kyle Shanahan is probably the most in-depth film work he's ever had in his career. He's ever had. So just that alone is such a big deal. And then there's a ton of other things. He's also playing against the first-team defense every day during practice. Once again, you can only get so good by practicing. Like I do agree that he should be starting, but there's also like so on my channel, on my 49ers channel, I had a comment that said like what the 49ers need to do is they need to get a young offensive coach to pair with Trey Lance. They need to fire Kyle and get a young offensive coach to pair with Trey Lance for stability. And I was like, that firing Kyle is the opposite of stability. That's you hear what you're saying. You're saying to get stability by creating a situation that's not stable. So I don't understand. I don't get it. I've also seen a lot of people saying like, oh, go get Kellen Moore. Guys, look at the offense. If you can draw average route concepts and route, like combinations, you're going to have a decent amount of success with the guys that they're rolling out. They have two very good running backs. Tony Pollard would start on a lot of other teams. And we've talked about Zeke in the past. Zeke isn't a slouch anymore either, even though people don't like him because he's kind of slow. The offensive line, not what it used to be, still pretty good. And then the receivers. It's either their receiving core or the Bucs receiving core that's the best in the league. And then, like at quarterback, oh, that's right. They have Dak Prescott, who looks absolutely phenomenal this year. So I put any coach there. He's going to have offensive success. I don't understand that either. But it's really shocking to me that people are so low on Kyle just because it's like, okay, if you were low on Kyle for losing, you could have said that last year. You could have said that many other times, but the way you evaluate a coach shouldn't be on a win-loss record. Now, you can definitely critique Kyle for and John Lynch and everyone there for some of the contracts they made, some of the trades they've made. Now, I will say this. People really try to like rip them for draft picks. I think people expect that every single draft pick is going to be a hit. I don't get that. If you're hitting 35% of your picks, you're doing pretty good. Like if you look around the league, that is pretty good. This year's draft class, people have been really trying to rip the Niners because the day 2 picks haven't been great. Aaron Banks, Trey Sermon, and Ambry Thomas. None of them are seeing the field. But look at the day 3 picks. You can't just pick day 2 and go, oh, yeah, only day 2 matters. Day 3, they have Elijah Mitchell, who looks like a stud. They have Talanoa Hufanga, who looks really good. Jalen Moore came in and played tackle one game. Looked excellent. Looked like he could be the tackle of the future. And then Diamador Lenore, when he's played at corner, he's been outstanding. So you have 4 players in the 3rd round that are already making an impact as rookies. Or sorry, not the third day. So like you can't be like, oh yeah, Kyle, you can't draft. Like, so he missed in day 2, but he had 4 hits in day 3. Any team is going to take 4 hits in a draft class. Any team. That is a good draft class if you hit on 4 players.
And it's not just like this year that people have complained about the draft picks. Look at last year. In the first round, people get mad at Kinlaw. And obviously Kinlaw injury stuff. Not his fault.
I would get mad not at Kinlaw, but I'd get mad at the draft pick because it's like, oh, he has Todd Gurley knee. That's what I'm saying. Getting upset at that.
But like at the same time, like they drafted Ayuk. They still hit on half of the first-round picks, which first-round picks have a 50% chance of hitting or not. I think people think that first-round picks have this 99% chance that the dude's a monster. 50% of first-round picks turn into really solid players, become the players that teams like expect them to do.
Not even like really good players, like starting level.
Yeah, like good. Like they're like, oh yeah, that wasn't a bust. But like, because people always think like, oh yeah, like. You draft Javon Kinlaw, you draft a defensive tackle. What does everybody think? They're going to be the next Aaron Donald. Like, that's what everybody thinks. You draft a wide receiver. Yep, it's the next Julio Jones. It's the next Antonio Brown, the next Devontae Adams. You draft a speedy wide receiver. That's Tyreek Hill. Like, every time any player is drafted, every fan just goes, yeah, this guy's the next best player in the NFL. And it's okay if they don't become that. They can become a solid player for your team. And Ayuk, one, it's not Ayuk's fault that he's not getting the ball this year. That's the fault of the quarterback play, just not being able to get the ball outside and things like that. But, I mean, last year, he looked really good last year. And he still looks really good. They're just having a problem getting him the football. Like, that's not like he's looking really good. Now, is he the best receiver in the league? No. He's in year 2. And he's looking really good. Like overall, I think just everybody expects these instant success stories from all these rookies. Like everybody wants to have a Justin Jefferson rookie season, a Jamar Chase rookie season, a Ezekiel Elliott rookie season. But that just doesn't happen most of the time. A lot of the time it takes a little bit, but you see the potential and you see what the coaches saw. And I think people try and rip way too much into Kyle Shanahan. And I think that honestly, it doesn't even start from it. I mean, it kind of starts from his coaching, but I think it starts from the Super Bowls. And unfortunately you understand that, but he gets flack for the play calling for Atlanta. They all of a sudden get really conservative, not really doing what they were doing anymore.
No, that's not what it was.
They didn't get conservative. They got really aggressive and they tried to really put pedal to the metal. And went all in, and it didn't work out. And it's like, so like everybody just he kind of became like a meme of like a guy.
Wait, do you know another guy like that? I know Andy Reid. Wait, was that the same narrative that came out for him? Oh yeah, it was. How interesting. One other thing I want to mention on Kyle Shanahan, then we can move on because we've been talking about it for a while. But another thing I've seen is that Kyle's not a player's coach, and players don't like him. Has anyone listened to anything that the players that have played under Kyle Shanahan have said? Do you guys realize that Pierre Garçon, who played on the Reds, he played on the Redskins, and I forgot where he played after that before he played in San Francisco.
He might have played for the Jets, but I'm not 100% sure.
He played on he played on San Francisco for 2 seasons, I want to say. And they weren't good. They didn't win much when he was there. He still goes to San Francisco 49ers games. He still does stuff because he's completely bought into the culture that Kyle has. You want to rip Kyle as much as you want? Trent Williams basically forced his way into San Francisco because the Vikings had a deal on the table for him, and he said, yeah, I'm not going to play for Minnesota. I will not do that. And then the Niners traded a 3rd-round pick for a guy right now who has a leg and an arm injury and is still playing. He's the best tackle in the league this season. And is he maybe the best pass pro guy? I don't know. Look at the numbers when the 49ers run the football behind him. I'll just give you last week. 7 carries, 100 yards. 7 carries, 100 yards. But it's like always like that. It's like almost every single week. So guys literally like go out of their way to go try to play for him. Brandon Ayuk, all the stuff that's happened to him, they just asked him today what he thought about it. And he said, look, basically it was like kind of like, I feel like I'm back. I feel like I'm in a good spot. And they're like, well, what happened with you and Kyle? Oh, me and Kyle had a long conversation over the bye week. It's like, what happened? Like, what do you guys talk about? Like, I don't know, but I'm good now. Basically saying Kyle's the guy that he also said, like, Kyle's the guy that has motivated me the most to get better. He's the guy that's pushed me the most. So if we're going to say he's not a player's coach because sometimes he looks a little pouty on the sideline, like, guys, come on. No, like, that's not how it is. Guys, I've talked about how big of a leader and stuff Kyle is for his entire career as a coach. When he was an assistant, when he was a receivers coach in Houston, I think it's Andre Johnson that's like, yeah, Kyle's the guy. And that's like when Kyle was like a 22-year-old or like 25-year-old receivers coach for the Houston Texans in 2005. So it's just really
I think you're missing
overblown.
another great example. A guy went from Cleveland to Atlanta to San Francisco following Kyle Shanahan, Alex Mack.
Yes.
Like guys like Kyle Shanahan. This isn't there's no Le'Veon Bell situation where they're coming out and they're like, I would never play for Kyle Shanahan ever again. I would rather die. That's never happened. Or at least not that I've heard of. Like overall, like I don't know. Kyle Shanahan gets way too much flack. And I think it's just because one, a lot of people hate the Niners, Cowboys fans, Seahawks fans, Rams fans, and everything like that. Raiders fans. And then also just like people don't watch them. And if you don't watch them, all you're going to do is look at the stats, and the stats don't look amazing for especially the passing game, because they're just not getting guys involved except for Deebo Samuel. The dude's absolute monster.
Real quick, Deebo is on pace for over 2,000 yards this season,
and about, I don't know,
1,500
yards are going to be after the catch because Kyle gets this dude wide open.
No, not just after the catch, probably after contact. No. I think you're right. But also a lot after contact.
A lot after contact. The dude is just an absolute mauler. I love Deebo.